From the Second Street Dreams audio network, this is Staccato, quick notes dotting the classical music landscape. I'm Judlyn Gibson. A new voice at the Met, and it's not an opera singer.
Just one of the most glorious positions to have in classical radio. I thought, oh, well, why don't I just send in my application? Why not? And they called me in about 3 days. So it was a rigorous round of interviews and auditions, and I'm very lucky and feel very blessed to be here.
She's Debra Lee Harder, the new voice of the Met, hosting the live Toll Brothers Metropolitan Opera Saturday matinee radio broadcasts. She is only the fifth person in the 90-year history of the broadcast to host the program. How do you look upon that sort of history?
I try not to think about it too much. I don't want to think too much about everybody who's come before, but they have been great broadcasters, and I feel very honored to be in this position now.
You have a very interesting background. Can you tell me about your doctorates, plural, and why you have them?
I had loved music since I was a little girl, and my parents were immigrants from South Korea. My dad has an incredible tenor voice. He's an anesthesiologist. He's 91 years old and still singing, not as much as he used to, but being in church choir was a big part of his life. And apparently, when he was growing up in Korea, his father was also a renowned singer in their village. So I come from this sort of musical talent in my family, although nobody had been a professional musician. So I began playing piano when I was very young. I think I started lessons when I was about 6 and got very serious about performing and playing and studying when I was about 9. And I had won a scholarship to the Peabody Institute in Baltimore to study with a very famous concert pianist, graduated from high school early and so forth in order to take advantage of this scholarship. My mother said, I'm going to have a stroke if you stay here and become a musician. She was very much against it and very fearful that I'd never be able to make a living. So I trundled back to Ohio, where I was growing up with my family, my brothers and my sister, and I enrolled later that year into a 6-year medical school program, which actually made my parents feel a whole lot better about my future prospects. If you know anything about Asian society and Korean society in particular, it is very much you respect your elders. And I did respect my parents, so I thought I would follow that route. And honestly, if I didn't have music in my life, I would have been very happy to continue with a medical career. But I realized, just as I was finishing medical school, that I missed music so much that this part of my soul was missing because I couldn't pursue music. So I got my degree in medicine. I actually got a license to practice medicine, and I was practicing as an emergency room physician, but in the back of my mind, I always thought, I've got to get back to music somehow. And almost fortuitously, one of the pianists that I admired most in the world, I saw in this piano magazine, of all things, a big advertisement put out by Ohio State University, and I was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time, that Earl Wild was coming to be professor of music at Ohio State University. So I enrolled and I auditioned, and I remember clearly my audition, and he was sitting there, and of course I was very intimidated, but in front of the whole panel he said, I'll take her. So I enrolled in a master's and then a doctorate eventually, and made my way back to music. So I spent a long time performing and teaching at the college level. And I came to realize that in my performances, the ones in which I spoke about the music and then played the pieces made a much bigger impact than the recitals and concerts in which I just played the music.
Listen to her performance from her album, Debra Lee Harder Plays Chopin and Prokofiev. The now Dr. Debra Lee Harder then arrived at WRTI, the classical music and jazz public radio station in Philadelphia. Suffice it to say that it was the passion of the music and the talking about the music that guided Debra Lee Harder to become the voice of the Met.
I think just bringing my passion and my excitement for this incredible art form to the world, I would love to be able to bring new listeners to opera and have people begin to love classical music if they hadn't before because of something that I've said or some way I've presented the music to them that could maybe capture them and make them lifelong lovers of this music.
Debra Lee Harder, the new voice of the Met, hosting the live Toll Brothers Metropolitan Opera Saturday Matinee radio broadcast. That's Staccato. I'm Jutlin Gibson on the Second Street Dreams audio network on secondstreetdreams.com.